All right, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. I'm going to be doing a Genesis 9 study. Let's hope I get this going. All right. I'll start off with the Lord's Prayer. Get this going on me. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come and may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread and forgive us of our debt as we forgive those in debt to us. And Lord, lead us not into temptation, but rather deliver us from the evil one. For yours, Lord, is the kingdom of heaven. For yours is the kingdom of power and glory, Lord, forever and ever. Amen. I think I'm throwing in an extra word there again. See, so this last if you watched my study on chapter 8, my last study on chapter 8, I talked about curses. And I think you could hear even a curse upon me just now. I feel like I stumble in my words, and that's not perfect. If I were perfect, I wouldn't stumble my words. And yet I always find myself stumbling upon my words, and perhaps it's some of the things I do. Maybe it's I know that I don't. Unfortunately, when I go out to this slave labor, I try as best I can, but I recognize the fact that a lot of these guys were cursing each other constantly. They have some of the worst language you people, and it's not just them. I won't say it's just guys that work outdoors. Um, they've got filthy mouths for some strange reason, but they do. Um, but anyway, I digress. Let me get into chapter 9. I'm in chapter 9, not, I don't know what I'm saying, but chapter 9. Let's make sure I get this. Lord, be with me as I speak here. All right. Let me get this situated. All right. Okay, here we are, Genesis 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. And you be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah and his sons with him, saying, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the three sons of Noah. and one of them was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. After he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and he told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew that his younger son had done it, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. And all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. All right, so that's oh wow, I'm way off on this thing. So that was Genesis 9. So let me read, let's go over this again. So what happens? God blesses Noah at the beginning. And it's a long blessing, and that's basically all this whole chapter is a blessing. Well, not necessarily. Let's see, there's the blessing, and then, that's all it says in this one. So apparently these aren't the greatest notes, but it also leaves out the fact of the cursing. So in this one, just like I was saying in Genesis 8, there's a thing about curses. So now we're learning more about curses. God is telling us, here's some things about curses that we need to know. So we need to know some things about curses and blessings. So it looks like what ends up happening, let's go ahead and get back in here. Let's see, right at the beginning, and God blessed Noah. So there's a blessing. So this chapter, talking about curses at the end of chapter 8. Let's see, where's the curse of chapter 8? It's way down at the end. There's the word curse. Never again. On 21 will I curse. I will never curse. I'm never going to curse the ground anymore. And then the next thing he does right away is a blessing. So chapter 8 ends on a note about, I'm never going to curse you guys. I'm never going to curse the ground again for the sake of man. And right here, God blesses Noah. So now he's going to bless Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So that right there is the blessing. To be fruitful, to multiply, and to replenish the earth. So that's the blessing that Noah and his sons received. So that's an interesting blessing. We won't get, too graphic with it, but there's some to be said about what they were blessed to be able to do. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. So now here's talking about the fear. So just like as I was saying, this is about the sacrifices. So the sacrifice is really teaching us something about power and teaching us something about authority. And we have to take it seriously, because the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast. So every animal was supposed to be afraid of humans. And think about it. Noah just saved all these animals. So all these animals are clearly, they would have been terrified of the whole situation themselves. I mean, they were all animals. You know how animals can be. They got captured, basically. Then they got thrown into the boat, and then the boat was probably rocking. The ark was probably rocking in the waters. It would have been a bumpy ride, and they were on it for a whole year, these animals. So, animals are, I got a cat and a dog myself. They're just right around the corner over here sleeping, and they can get antsy, and so I want to imagine how they would be in a boat, and hearing thunder and lightning all around you. But so these animals that were left over, come out, and they know something crazy happened to these animals, and they know that they're lucky to be alive. And so these animals all come out, in Genesis 8. What happens? They all come out of Genesis 8. Everybody comes out, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, towards the end, what does he do? Noah builds an altar and takes every clean beast and clean fowl, and he just offers him. Bam, kills them, burns them. That would have scared all these animals, I imagine. Let's just be realistic. Some people want to say this looks crazy. And I'll tell you right now that that's what I used to believe. People used to believe this, or I used to believe this kind of stuff too. People believe, oh, look, it's psycho. And I'll tell you now, because nowadays we're not supposed to be sacrificing. We learn that as we come across the Bible. If we read the rest of the Bible, God desires mercy, not sacrifice. God desires mercy, not sacrifice. But nonetheless, this is early man. This is Noah. This is what needed to be done in that day. That's what needed to be done. These guys needed to do this because of how evil humans had been. All around them, there was so much evil. The world needed to be cleansed, and they needed to be sanctified. So here's God sanctifying them with these sacrifices, because what's going on here is he's getting these clean animals and he's offering them on an altar. And so this was, once again, these guys would have been going into heaven. These creatures, some people ask, do animals go to heaven? Yeah, this is basically what it is. We're giving them to God. I mean, he just gave those creatures to God. That's what happened. He gave them to God. God took them. And that's so now we know at this point who's up in heaven. As far as we understand it, there's a few people in heaven. We heard about Enoch going up. Enoch walked with heaven and he was no more, so he was taken. And we know about Abel. Abel was definitely murdered, and he was, like I said, he would have faced spiritual death. He's done for. There's no more inhabitation of the bodies. He goes straight back to God. So he's there with God, doing his whole, whatever God has him doing, probably resting more than likely, just like, one of the saints patiently waiting. But there he is. Those are few people. Now he's got these beasts. He's got a few animals. He's got one of all the clean animals, all the birds, all the clean animals. He's got he's got them. Noah did good. He's like, here you go. Basically, you gave us you gave me and my family as man, you gave us all these animals. So technically Noah would have been the property owner of all of this stuff right now, all of these animals. It would have basically been, if you think about it, like some sort of a ranch that he owned, some sort of a zoo that he owned. And it was just them. It was just them and him and his family and his sons and his sons' wives. And then they are blessed, and they have to replenish the earth now. They're fruitful and multiply. So but right away, that's the curse. I don't know if this is a curse. I don't know what to think of this, but right now, the fear of the humans, God is instilling that fear. All the animals just saw this. They just witnessed this. It's a terror. Meeting God is terror. That's because terror is, these guys had to die. They were sacrificed. So now you see that at least to that snake. Remember the snake from chapter 3, that snake that committed the crime alongside Adam and Eve. He should have been paying attention to this. You know what I'm saying? Like, these animals, this gets into that's why there's pagan worship. Pagans love to worship animals. And we're even told, and I don't know if it's around here somewhere or whenever it comes up, maybe I already came across it or maybe I haven't, but basically he tells them not to make any engraven image of he's going to tell them, don't make any engraven images of anything in heaven nor below in the deeps. You're not supposed to make any engraven image. And so we gotta learn to understand what that means, because like I said, it leads to this pagan worship. It leads to worshiping animals. It leads to, because you could give a lot of empathy to these animals right now. that just got sacrificed. They just, they got saved from the flood just to be sacrificed on an altar as soon as the earth is dried up. That's what happened, and you could have some sort of empathy for them and get very upset, and you get angry with God, and you shouldn't do that. And I'm telling you not to do that. But I see it happening, and it leads to like a pagan worship of these animals. They worship the sun, they worship the earth around them. They worship nature. They love to say, "Oh, I go out in nature and I feel spiritual. I feel God on the mountain." Well, these are people falling in love with the world, not understanding what's going on. The whole earth was violent. So there's something wrong with the earth. The earth itself is corrupt. So it's still corrupt even after it gets cleaned. It gets, but it becomes corrupt again. So let's see what happens right here. Or let's see. So all the animals are afraid of us, and all of them. So then everything now living shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. So now he's telling you that you can eat anything too. Go ahead and eat it all. Even the green herb. Now, so he had given us the green herb back in Genesis 2 or so. And then Genesis 9 over here. Now we're getting the meat to eat too. So now we can eat the meat. He goes, but the flesh of the life thereof, which is the blood, you shall not eat. So we're not supposed to eat of the blood. So see, all this is all parts of, this is conditionals. These are conditions. You can eat any of the meat, but you can't eat the blood. Don't eat the blood. And he says, and also the blood of your lives will I require. So this is also another. I'm going to require the blood of your lives. And the hand of every beast, at the hand of every beast will I require it, saying, so if any animal kills a beast, I need that beast's blood. And at the hand, and if any man kills a man, I need that man's blood. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. So now he's telling them. Now this is wiping out. This is wiping out Cain. Cain's misunderstanding. Now everybody knows you are not allowed to kill people. All these people in Cain, during that line of Cain, they all thought, we kill whoever we want. We're gods. We do whatever we want. We'll kill you. We kill you. Lamech was, I kill a man. I kill a man. That's how they acted. And this is God telling them right off the bat. This is how he breaks this curse of Cain, or at least he gets his vengeance on Cain by wiping out Cain's entire line. So Cain is basically done for. That's what it seems like. However, that doesn't necessarily seem like it's going to be the entire case. But so if that's not the case, it's really him making a huge statement. He's dealing with these line of Cain people as well. These other types of creatures, these what we know as demons. Demons that inhabit the bodies, that give out that are parts of the mental illnesses, that are parts of basically physical ailments, are all parts of, these are demons acting out, and somehow, or curses, demons or curses acting out. But it's something along these lines that we do come across this later on in the Bible, with how the demons, and here we're also still, like I said, it's giving us some insight on curses. So these curses have conditions, you see. So this curse is basically, remember, now you can eat now you can eat animals, So before that, they were only allowed to eat the herbs. So those people, when you remember Lion Cain, he was not able to, the ground would not yield its strength to him, right? So that means he was a farmer, and he offered cursed items because the ground was already cursed. And so basically then God says, look, now don't you get it? No food for you. Now there's no food for you. And they couldn't even, so what did they do? They started trying to eat, and they started trying to steal. So they would have had to become, that's why it led to they were so bad. And that's why the flood came around, because the whole world was bad. They were running around killing each other, taking over. So some of these people, clearly they weren't able to plant. They weren't able to farm anymore. So they weren't able to to survive as easily as they should have been able to, because they should have been able to just spring, food should just come up out of the ground for you. That's how it is. In a perfect world, if we're perfect, I mean, food should just come out of the ground. And that's why when Jesus curses the fig tree so many years later, people don't understand that. Well, it's because food should just come out of the ground for me. That's what God gives me. That's what God has given to me. Food should just pop out of the ground. I should just work it. It shouldn't take too long. It shouldn't do anything, but it just pops out ground. I don't even have to try. It just does it because God and I have a relationship, and I am his son, and he is within me, and so forth. And I have the inheritance, and I'm not greater than the master, but I become like the master, and so forth. And that's what's going to happen. But for whatever reason, these whole people didn't have that. And of course, and Adam and Eve too lost that kind of gift. When they were cursed, they were tossed out, and all of a sudden, they had to work the land for it. Where previously it just popped up out of the ground because God did it for them. Well, now they were having to rake it up. They were having to scratch at it. That's what the curse on Adam was. By the toil of your own hands, you're gonna have to do it now. So that's how you gotta go do it. You gotta go farm. But perfection says, oh, just pops up for the ground for me. And that's what it should have done for Jesus. Why wasn't that fig tree giving any figs to Jesus Christ? It was an evil fig tree. So he cursed it and it died. That fig tree was part of the evil there. It was placed there. It was part of the evilness. And that's what's going on here. You can see that. This is a part of the curses, that the earth itself is cursed and corrupt. The earth itself is like a living creature to God. And like I said, when you say that, you don't want to necessarily, because then people want to worship it's a living creature. Oh, Mother Earth, let's be nice to her, so forth. It's turning it into an actual creature. But I'm just saying, to God, that's what it kind of is like. To us, it's dirt, obviously. To us, it's not, it's nothing. To us, it doesn't make any sense what I'm trying to say, because we know we've messed with dirt. You go get bulldozers. You move the dirt. You can do excavation. You see, and you can figure out how it works. And there's, once you get the hang of it, and it's, obviously there's a lot to know, but there's a lot of different types of dirt and a lot of different terrains. But you become really good at it, and you can use these machines. And we know it's not gonna magically come to life and eat you. That's not what's gonna happen. Because we know this, we can tell, and God has given us this knowledge. But to God itself, it can tell, it knows where the corruptness lies and where that corruptness comes from. So here, this curse is, like I said, we're getting conditions. It looks like, and what are the conditions again? That you can have all the meat now, but you can't eat the blood, and I'm going to require the blood of your lives from everybody. And so what Cain did was completely, now they know, the world knows, murder is not allowed. If you murder, you shall be killed too. And if a beast kills a man, that beast shall be killed. And you need to give me that blood. God is saying it. This is a command. This is the blessing and its conditions. That blessing is, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And as long as you and you can also eat all the meat. So this is it. This is a blessing, and this is also the kind of an attachment, an amendment to that. You can also eat all the meat, and also notice that the animals shall now fear you. You can now eat meat, and here it goes on. But you can't eat the blood, and I require your blood. So you have to follow these two in particular to get these three things. So these are the three things that you get. You get to be the fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. You get the fear of the animals. The animals are afraid of you. And then you also get to eat meat. Those are the three things that you get as part of this blessing. These are the rules that you have to follow. You have to not eat the blood. And your blood needs to be repaid, and whoever, so right here, whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. So he's showing how important man is to God. Man is super important to me, says God. He's super important because he's made in my image. It's the most important thing here. All you animals, everything, you guys are not man. Man is the most important. Which is, again, this is something that we're taught is completely, completely backwards what our society teaches us. The idea that we're spinning on a globe, we're nothings, we're evolved, we could be gone tomorrow. Nobody cares about us. Our world is, it's so small yet so big. They're so confused. But God is telling us we are super important. We're the most important thing. And we're very important. And anybody who kills one, I'm gonna need the blood. Anybody who kills a man needs to be killed. Any animal, any human, anybody. I need that blood if somebody murders. So that's basically saying Cain. That's telling you Cain was wrong. This is bam. This is a huge shock to the line of Cain. That's how serious it was. He said it's so serious that clearly everybody on earth needed their blood paid back. I mean, everybody was guilty of murder. Everybody was guilty of murder in those times. That's how crazy it was. That's how bad it was. Everybody was just running around killing each other. No big deal. It was survival of the fittest. That's back when survival of the fittest. That's what it was like. But let's see. So, and as long as they followed those simple laws, they'd get. That's part of the curse. So that's how a curse, and that's kind of examining the curse. It's kind of like a legal thing. You get these things. It's like a contract. Here you get A, B, and C. As long as you do 1, 2, 3. You get A, B, C as long as 1, 2, 3 gets done or whatever. It's like a contract. It's like a covenant. It's a curse. It's a blessing. It's a blessing or a curse. So blessing, that's the blessing right there. And the blessing has the conditions. And so then right again, he comes up with another one. And now here's establishing a covenant with you. So now I'm making a covenant with you and your seed after you. So you see, it's real legal. A lot of legal things going on here. And he said, basically, my covenant is with you and all your humans after you. And this is for every living creature that is with you and all of them and everybody that's in this ark and every animal and everything that's going to come forth from you guys. Every beast of the earth. I'm going to establish my covenant that neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of the flood. Neither shall there be any more flood to destroy the earth. So just like I said at the chapter 8, he kind of in his heart, it happens at the end in his heart, I will not again curse the ground, neither will I again smite anymore every living thing as I have done. So it's not that he won't ever smite anything, every living thing again. He's just not going to do it the same way that he did it in that manner. And so that's why he's telling them right here, here's the manner between God and every living, where is it? Here's neither will I do it by a flood, by waters of a flood. There's never going to be a flood situation again. And here he goes, he gives the rainbow. And so this is saying something about physics, how he's changing the laws of physics here. So this is probably another big thing to take into account because I guess you have to wonder, can the laws of physics change? Like what we know at one point, God is saying the rainbow did not exist. So the atmosphere or the, how do you say it? Like the laws of physics regarding the rainbow did not exist apparently until after the flood. So something changed. And so once again, now we're talking about these people of Cain, how I've mentioned, they may have been some sort of light creatures because they were made in God's image. They were light, creatures of light. Well, now all of a sudden we're seeing that there's a whole thing in physics change where now, because what is a rainbow? A rainbow is like the refraction of light. It's going to be like light refraction. So what is a rainbow? Not a rainbow baby. That doesn't make any sense. But what is a rainbow is going to be like when Colors are formed in the sky. They're caused by the refraction and dispersion of the sun's light by rain or other water droplets in the atmosphere. So it's usually has to do with water, with rain, and that's exactly what God is saying. So the laws that regarding this physics, whatever, it didn't happen before this. This is saying, look, I'm gonna, for a token, once again, here's another sign that he is giving us, a physical sign. Not only was the sun and the moon and the stars are physical signs, um and so is the earth. All of that, everything's physical signs to show us what's going on in the spiritual realm. um and here's another one. Here goes, I'm going to change the laws of physics for you. So, bam, now something happens, and it has to do with refraction of light. So you got to understand what was changed. So, and there's like a movie called like The Matrix. And so I do tell people you're living in the Matrix. And this is kind of, think about that though. God changed the laws of physics so that suddenly rainbows were a thing. So before that, they weren't a thing. Now they're a thing. So what was it? What he changed water? He changed the atmosphere. There's something happened in the air, and suddenly, you get what I'm saying? Suddenly, rainbows were a thing. They were possible now. That was a covenant right there. He said, "Look, I'm gonna put it in the cloud." Blah blah blah, and that has a big deal. If these creatures that were from the line of Cain were light creatures, here is God changing the laws of physics that very well could have a complete change in how the world looked and how light was perceived, and what this earth looked like literally could have been completely different before Noah. So Noah suddenly was like, wow, like the earth looks different. Like it would have been like, bam, that's kind of crazy. The whole world is different, like colors or something. Suddenly the I can see rainbows. So whatever was the case, like we weren't there, we couldn't really see it, but he's saying that the whole thing changed. Here's a covenant. I mean, people don't give this enough credit. People give this as a mythical, fictional fairy story or something, like, oh, blah blah blah. It's, how do you explain the rainbow? No, well, God changed physics. He changed the atmosphere. He changed something. It was obviously on a global level, on a worldwide level. And it clearly, I mean, it could have, who knows what the world could have looked like or been like before that case. But something happened, and the flood changed everything. And that's what that story of the rainbow really is all about. I mean, that's what's going on here. Physics changed, something crazy changed. And he's telling them, and now I'm going to remember my covenant that I made with every living creature, and I'm never gonna bring a flood anymore. And there's the bow and the rainbow and the cloud, that I may remember the everlasting covenant. So that's God putting like a big old blessing upon us, putting a big old covenant with us. So he's making, this is the covenant, and there's a blessing. The blessing is, here you get this. Here's the covenant saying, here's a deal that I'm doing that's, with the covenant with the earth. I'm never gonna do it again. So that's not necessarily a blessing. It's a covenant. It's basically a promise. And the blessing is like, go ahead and take advantage of this blessing and reproduce. And this one is right here. It's the covenant. And let's see. And then whatever. Let's see. This is the token. So then here they are. They come out, and they tell you the names: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These are the important names, and the important name also is that Ham is the father of Canaan, and Canaan becomes a great. That's the land of the Abraham, the land of Canaan, and then there's gonna be a bunch of things. They end up being, they're gonna be like giants. They're gonna be really wicked. They're gonna, but we'll find Melchizedek. There's a lot of things coming out of Canaan, but we do see that now there's another curse that we're gonna come across. And so here's what's going on. And this is another thing that I feel people distort a lot. They want to say that this story is where Ham is gonna walk in on his dad, and he's gonna see his dad. He's gonna see Noah naked, and he's gonna run out and he's gonna go tell his other brothers, and his other brothers are gonna come in and cover him up, and they're gonna cover him up so that he's not naked anymore. So, and this is also where people are, they don't understand it. And Noah wakes up and he finds out what happens, and he's all like, "I'm gonna curse this dude's son." Well, like, it doesn't make any sense to us nowadays. We're like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you curse this guy's kid? Um, when he did something, doesn't that seem a little messed up? And why did he curse him? You just saw him naked. He was the guy getting drunk, right? I mean, it's something going on. There's but there's a curse. Nonetheless, it's a curse, and so we have to see what's going on here. So God just blessed us, right? God just blessed us, and that's what happened. God just blessed us. Be fruitful and multiply. And over a little thing, we're gonna see how Noah gets drunk. So look at, he's gonna plant a vineyard. It's gonna be an husbandman. What is this husbandman kind of? I'm gonna take a look at this, maybe NLT again. Genesis 9:20. 9:20 reads, "After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent." So I guess that's what that one goes at. It's basically the same thing. And Noah began to be an husbandman. He cultivates the land. He plants a vineyard. He drinks of the wine, gets drunk, and he goes naked into his tent. And then all of a sudden, Ham comes out. And so God is showing us here how what it is to be blameless and what it is to be kind of more perfect. So God is starting over, and he's showing us a lesson with history. So remember, this is something that Moses wrote down, and Moses would have learned it from God while Moses was up on the mountain. When he was up there with God, Moses was a chosen man. He was a select man to see these things, and so Moses wrote this down historically so that we could understand what's going on here. And like I said, a lot of people, sure, I get it. We don't understand it, so that's why we're studying it here. And we do. The problem is we take it as fiction when in reality this is truth, because Jesus Christ was truth, and Jesus Christ is witness to all of this. And to deny this is to deny Jesus Christ, and so forth. But this is important because he was basically making Noah and them like the new Adam and Eve, to be righteous, right? And to be righteous is to be righteous. So obviously, Noah does something wrong. He gets drunk. This is the thing. This is something wrong. I know it tells us later on, alcoholics, and I mean, it tells us drunkards shouldn't be, drunken. We shouldn't be getting drunk. We should be sober. But of course, these people are living their lives, and this was told on their behalf, because they are gods. They were living sacrifices for the Lord. And their stories were supposed to help us in this day and age. And so that's what this is going. He does something wrong. He gets drunk, and he falls asleep, and he's naked. So obviously that's what alcohol and getting drunk does. It'll make you do silly things like lie naked in your tent. And so Ham, obviously coming in, I mean, he should have been able to just walk in on his father properly, right? But he comes in and sees the nudity of his dad, which is, you kind of are gonna start learning later on too that how do we put it? If we were perfect, what we say is what we would do, right? We would have nothing. There'd be no lies in us, and we would also be able to see the future, because that's what the prophets were able to do. The prophets spoke of the future. So they were able to see visions of the future oftentimes. And so if we're communicating with God, God knows all things. God could tell us the future. So we would know the future theoretically. If we were perfect beings, God is telling us perfection, you would see the future. And and so because and you would not get drunk. You wouldn't get drunk. That's another thing of perfection. So obviously these men were not perfect. Uh, Noah gets drunk. That's his fault. Ham should have been able to see the future. That's his fault for walking in uh, on his dad naked. And people don't understand that, but that is a part of perfection. You should be able to see the future. We should be able to see the future. We're prophetic. That's what it means to be prophetic. We should know what's going to happen. Um, but obviously, he didn't know he was going to walk in on his dad naked. And that's what happened. He walked in on his dad naked. And that is technically like a sin. It's worthy of what happened next. So he goes out and he goes out and tells his brothers, and his brothers say, well, in order to not let this happen on any of us again, or on our mother or our wives or whatever, they go in backwards and they cover him. And so maybe his tent was also important. So it could very well be that his tent was important. Obviously, Noah, at this point, it doesn't tell you at what point this was. And it does say that clearly Canaan was around. Ham already had kids. So who knows how many children at this point were running around, because they were supposed to be fruitful. So they could have already been a bunch of children running around, and Noah's tent could have probably been very important because everybody was going in and out of his tent, because he would have been the forefather. He would have basically been the leader of them all. He would have been a high person to, hey, let's go talk to this guy when we need to talk, when we need information or whatever. So it very well could be that is also the case. That's why they go back in there, they cover him up. But it also means that, well, why was anybody in the courthouse at all? Like Ham was. That it's very, it's stuff like that. That's what was happening here. A lot of people think though, and they'll turn it and they'll distort it into something disgusting. They'll add words that aren't there, and basically say that, oh yeah, he raped his father. Yeah, he goes in and he, like, messes with his father or something, with the something homosexual is what they'll turn it into. But that is not the case. The case was that it was probably some sort of a courthouse, some sort of an important tent, and nobody should have been there on that day. And Ham goes in anyway and sees him naked, and so forth. And so he comes out and he curses him, like, look, now you're gonna be servants, your son. So he curses his son for some reason. So Noah wakes from his wine, so he's drunk, and he's this is why it tells you later on, what is the Bible verse? I want to say Bible verse, the priests are drunk. What is it saying about even the prophets and the priests are so drunk to understand the visions that are too drunk to understand the vision that God sends, and the priests are too drunk to decide. Okay, so you and your sons are not to. So here you go, Leviticus 10:9. That's what we're looking for. Leviticus 10:9. And here's, you and your descendants must never drink wine or any other alcoholic drink before going into the tabernacle. If you do, you will die. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation. So we see that Noah had just offered sacrifices. So Noah was supposed to be blameless, right? Wasn't he blameless? He was the high priest at this point in time. He was the priest. He should have been at least like a priest, and we do learn that we're supposed to be kings and priests, and we come across Melchizedek, who is both the king and a priest, and we'll come across him in what is it, chapter 14 or so. And but so here we see that he is he's supposed to be kind of like a priest guy. So his tent would have been kind of like a priest tent. It would have been kind of like the altar there. He would have been the priest guy. And so we learned that, the Leviticans are told, they're told later on they're not supposed to drink, to not drink wine or strong drink, and don't go into the tabernacle. And so that's kind of what Noah did here. He got drunk and went into his an important tent. And so Ham goes in and checks out, oh, this is the important tent, the tent where we go to talk to, Mr. Noah about God. And he's in there drunk. Let's see Isaiah 28:7. What does this one say? Here's the NIV. And these also stagger from wine and reel from beer. Priests and prophets stagger from beer and are befuddled with wine. They reel from beer. They stagger when seeing visions. They stumble when rendering decisions. Wow, isn't that true? I have been drunk. I will tell you, when I've been unsaved, I've gotten drunk. So that is an amazing way of saying it. They are befuddled with wine, reel from beer, and they stagger when seeing visions. So King James puts it, but they also have erred through wine and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. And that's what happened here with Noah. Clearly, he was drunk. He was hungover probably, and he comes and he proclaims this curse. That's his judgment. He just cursed his own children, his own line. This is what happened. He comes out. He was, Noah woke from his wine and he said, "Cursed be Canaan." So he curses the kid. "A servant of servants shall be he unto his brethren." And he said, "Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." And Noah, so obviously this is stuff that we're going to see coming through with Abram. We'll see that Abram, which will be the line of Shem, I believe. He comes from Shem. His line is ultimately Abram's people, and Abram's going to come into the land of Canaan. And sure enough, the land of Canaan will serve, just like it says, will be the servants of the tents of, that's what's going to happen here. That's, just as God puts it, and we'll see that when we come across Melchizedek in chapter 14, I believe is when it is. In chapter, we learn about, and we see him, and he comes out and he talks about the, how they're going to, how he's going to talk about how Abram's seed is going to get the inheritance of the land and so forth. But basically, this is something that Noah proclaims. He curses them, and he does this. It's something that, as a righteous man, as this is somebody that God saved, God chose, God, and of course, God is showing us the power of our words and the power of our decisions and the power of what's going on around us. Noah was an important guy at this time. He was important. He would have acted kind of like as a priest to them. He would have been an important guy that spoke with God. And so then he obviously gets drunk, and when all this happens, he's probably hungover. He comes out and he makes a decision, and that decision is, bam, Canaan's cursed. And then for the next however many years, when Abraham comes around, God's making it happen. He said, "All right, you cursed Canaan. I'm going to make him the servant of Shem and them." That's what happened. Blessed. So God is teaching us about curses and blessings. So that's why look, you can even see he curses Canaan first. "Oh, I curse Canaan." But then, then all of a sudden he comes back with the blessing. But so that means his blessing is probably like, "Look, I'm wrong. I just cursed. I said that in my anger. So instead, here I go. I gotta bless the Lord God." So it could be that he's getting repentant. Um, and Canaan shall be his servant. Now that's obviously I'm putting in like a spin on it there, but it could very well be that's why the curse comes first, and then all of a sudden a blessing. He still blesses the God of Shem, and he says, you know what? God shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So you see where he's getting at there. He's still saying, yeah, well, I cursed Canaan, but I'm going to bless these guys, and hopefully these guys will take care of Canaan or whatever. And Noah lived after the flood 300, so he lived another 350 years, and basically he was 950 years old when he died. So he lived a long time. Like I said, Noah would have been an important guy, and for 350 years, as the earth was being repopulated, he would have been some sort of almost a mythical creature, mythical person. He would have been like a real high up there, and so that's why his tent would have probably been real important, and he probably would have been like a judge getting naked in the courtroom, and he got embarrassed because this guy comes in and sees him naked, but that guy probably shouldn't have been in the courthouse in the first place because, but anyway, that's what's going on here. That was kind of what happened, and it leads to a curse and a blessing. And so God is really, really laying it down in this chapter, talking about curses and blessings and how they kind of work. The blessings kind of come with lots of times, it's not all the time, but sometimes they come with uh, I guess restrictions, or they come with conditions. And they kind of and covenants are also, there's a covenant in here too, where, oh yeah, let's not forget that all the laws of physics also changed in this time. So, so it's just chapter 9. Chapter 9, that's chapter 9. I'm going to go ahead and get back out here. I don't know if I was even, hopefully I was showing all that in that whole time. I don't even know. I'm lost. But I'll go ahead and stop it here. This was chapter 9. There was a lot going on in Genesis 9. And I'll go ahead and say, God bless you, whoever may be watching this, and may we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.